Say,
Oh, Harley.
oh man,
That's a pause, man. We're gonna have to get these whenever these people get in here, we're gonna have to tell them replay that. Be careful when
replay
y'all open that damn
the
live,
first
man.
couple of seconds, man.
Mans was too excited to see me. I feel that.
Hey, big news for the Houston Texans today. They decided to start free agency a couple of days early. Everyone was worried, not worried, but wondering what the Houston Texans were going to do with pending free agent Dalton Schultz. From Dalton Schultz side, we know that he wanted to return to the Houston Texans. He talked about that live X chat was nutty. Yes, bro. Shout out to the spaces that go on. Um he wanted to return to the age, how he loved the organization, loved the city, and it was just what are the Houston Texans going to do? Well, we found out earlier today, that the Texans have agreed to terms on a deal to keep tight end Dalton Schultz in Houston. He gets a 3-year, 36 million new contract with 23.5 million fully guaranteed at signing. Schultz is a key weapon for CJ Stroud since Ian Rappaport. Harley, the Houston Texans once again invest into their quarterback in now year 2. How do you feel about the Houston Texans bringing back Dalton Schultz?
Um, I'm pretty content about it.
Yeah.
Overall, I think the discussion is you keep continuity, and that was my tweet
Mm,
immediately. Is that CJ Stroud continues to have that continuity within this organization? It's something that the organization before had problems with in Deshaun, and there was so much other stuff around that. Let's try to wrong our mistakes. All
mm,
right, and let's keep our quarterback happy. It's pretty obvious that CJ Stroud wanted to bring back Dalton Schultz. It was pretty obvious way back then in the draft when you got CJ Stroud that he wanted Tank Dell. So, hey, you do what you do for your quarterback. Obviously, he's not going
mm.
to drive every decision for you, but this is a nice, solid, fair signing. 3 years, 36 million. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, we all wanted him to take a discount, right? We all wanted him to, and that's pretty much how we feel about guys like Saquon Barkley and these number of running backs who want to come back to the H, right? You know what we are doing? There is something special brewing with CJ Stroud, D'Amico, Ryan. So if you want to be here, take a discount. But we also heard that from the Dalton Schultz camp, right? They wanted to make a deal that makes sense for both parties.
Mm-hmm.
And this is top 12 paid tight end money. And for the season that Dalton Schultz had, first year with the Houston Texans, 59 catches, 635 yards, 5 touchdowns, was the number 2 option at the end of the season behind Nico Collins because of the injuries that the team was sustaining the entire year. I'm not mad at the contract whatsoever. I would have been more excited if it was, a more team friendlier one. But nonetheless, not bad at all. Good job from the Houston Texans front office. Good job, Nick Caserio. Um, it seems like the contract is just what a lot of people are just talking about. They're not really talking about Dalton Schultz, the play that he brings on the field. We know is a very good receiving tight end, but I don't mind the contract at all. Some will call it an overpay. I get it. I get that we want everyone to take a discount and come here, but not mad at this one at all.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. Like I said earlier, continuity and to drive that point more forward, the Houston Texans now have kept. They still continue next year with wide receiver 1 in Nico Collins, wide receiver 2 in Tank Dell, tight end 1 in Dalton Schultz. You kept your offensive coordinator, you kept your quarterbacks coach, okay? And you got an offensive line that is fully together for year 2 in this system. The Houston Texans in continuity seems to be the plan for this offseason. We mentioned Nick Caserio a few weeks ago talk about how he views the cap this year as a 2-year plan. Is
Mm,
he trying to say, hey, maybe we should also be looking at extending Nico Collins as well?
mm.
So it's all about continuity, it looks like, for this Texans team. Let's keep it together. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. CJ Stroud and company, it's obviously going to get better because just of growth and
Hmm.
everything, maturity, experience, all that good stuff, it's only going to get better for this offense, and you can still add more players outside this organization.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt that the best is yet to come for these Houston Texans skill players. As CJ Stroud himself gets better, the team around him will get better. And I love how you bring up continuity, man, because the first 3 years are so important for a young quarterback. So for you to bring back his top two receiver options, his number one tight end, his offensive coordinator, his quarterback coach, you just continue to invest into number seven. Anytime you do that, I am not going to be mad at all. You saw it during the draft. Go get Tank Dell. And then, like you mentioned earlier, we know CJ Stroud wanted Dalton Schultz to return. As soon as the news was broke, he quoted that and put it on his Instagram story with the fire emojis. A lot of Houston Texans fans were excited that Dalton Schultz returned. And I think I think Nick Caserio, by the move he made today, might have a spendy free agency.
Mm,
And it started today with Dalton Schultz, right? And I think your point of continuity, really is the reason why I'm saying this, because this will be the last year you have this coaching staff together. Bobby Slowick is going to be gone and be a head coach next year.
yeah.
Well, like you can have some type of conversation about OC for Gerard Johnson. If I'm Nick Caserio, I'm going all out in year two. And he brought out a pretty bag for Dalton Schultz, and we haven't even touched free agency, which starts next week. So I wonder what else is up his sleeve, right? We know that Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, won't be franchise tagged from the Miami Dolphins. He will be available. The Saquon Barkley news has been going on for maybe a year. I'm saying, like a year here on how much he wants to be a Houston Texan. How do you feel about the rest of free agency, man? You think Nick Caserio is going to go out there and spend some money, or is this Dalton Schultz deal one of the biggest we see from him this period?
You know, in terms of money, it could be, but
Okay.
when you look at names, I think you're gonna grab a few guys that some people know, or that just are stand out to you in any way. The Houston Texans, they got to do more than just Dalton Schultz. We all know
Mm,
this. They got to do more than that. Whether it's Saquon Barkley, we all know that Saquon Barkley has all of the rumors has spearheaded his way right to Houston. Lots of Texans fans want Saquon Barkley.
best
Uh,
odds.
you yeah, if according to Vegas, so it is what it is. Because when you look at it, you still got to fill out the rest of the roster. And I'm not saying 10 or to 12 million is going to break you on a Saquon Barkley deal. But you still got to look at filling out the rest of this roster. You got holes at linebacker still. Aziz Al Shair is someone that's been linked to the Texans already. The Texans also are looking to trying to rumored to bringing back Steven Nelson. Whether or not
Mm,
I'm a big fan, regardless, they need another cornerback.
they do.
So if continuity is the name of the game here, then Steven Nelson, who, let's be real, he was all right. He was okay for you. He played really good in the
Number
absence of
two
Derek
cornerback.
Stingley. And yeah, he's a solid number two cornerback. There's nothing wrong with it too much. Can you improve? Absolutely. To get to one of the questions here, thoughts on Christian Wilkins. He said Stutz and Landry just did the signer decline on Wilkins and said not worth it. What do you guys think? I'll say this. I don't agree about saying he's not worth it. Maybe in terms of price point, I didn't hear the audio clip. But in terms of price point, I will say 20 million for Christian Wilkins is a little steep for me. And
Mm,
he's at 20.5, I want to say, on Spot Rack. Um, it's pretty steep, considering that I mean, look at the other guys that are not going to be available in Chris Jones and Justin Madubuike, who I would have opened that blank check for. Whereas Christian Wilkins, I kind of am going, okay, you had 9 sacks this previous year, but you've never touched anything near that the other years
mhm.
preceding that. Now, I will say though, The guy is immensely talented, and with the tutelage of D'Amico Ryans in this defense, I think he would be fantastic. And I think he could play up to that money, but paying him 20 million, 21 million, I like the idea. I do, but I don't think the Houston Texans are going to go that route. I think they got a different route in
Mhm.
mind for defensive line.
You think through the draft?
Not only through the draft, but I think they could find guys that are good ball players but cheaper, and I look at, not only are they going to be looking at Sheldon Rankins, it's obvious that it seems like Sheldon Rankins seems to be a guy that D'Amico liked, according to John McClain, when we had him live on the show. But
Mhm.
I look at a Danico Autry, I look at a Grover Stewart, I look at those two guys, both guys that are inside your division that you can take away from Colts or the Titans. Both guys are really good players and could immediately impact this team. It's more of a bargain deal. I get it. Is it as good as a Christian Wilkins? Probably not, because Christian Wilkins is obviously younger than both of them guys. But to add one of them two guys with, let's say, Danico Autry, for example, you still have Malik Collins. Danico Autry, I believe, if I'm correct, plays Malik Collins' position in terms of defensive tackle. So you having a group of, I don't know, Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, Danico Autry, Khalil Davis is still in there, and you can still look at defensive line in the draft. That's a better defensive line group than the previous year.
It's just I look at Danico Archie, he's about to be 34. I look at Grover
Sure.
Stewart, he's about to be 32. Both these guys aren't three down defensive tackles like
Mhm.
Christian Wilkinson. And Christian Wilkins is coming off of his best season, pass rushing wise, in terms of pass rush, run weight, pressures, sacks. I think the best is yet to come for Christian Wilkins, still 28 years old. And if we were looking at guys like Matty BK and Chris Jones, I think Christian Wilkins is one tier below that, like you said. But this is a dude who is dominant against the run, just showed you
Mhm.
he can get to the quarterback this year, doesn't have any injury concerns at all, has played a full 17 games in the past 3 years, has been a captain for the Miami Dolphins. I have no doubt could be a captain here on this Houston Texans team. I would like to see Christian Wilkins become a Houston Texans, man. You have to spend some money at one point. I do like bringing in Danico Autry and who else did you say?
I mentioned
Grover
Grover
Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah,
Just
wouldn't mind that whatsoever.
I don't mind it, and I don't disagree with your Christian Wilkins take. I don't. I would jump for joy for Christian Wilkins. Let's be real. Um, but Grover Stewart and Danico Autry, I'm looking at filling out the rest of this roster, and
Hmm.
if you're telling me that I've grabbed, I don't know, maybe instead of Christian Wilkins and two more guys, that I grabbed, maybe Grover, let's say Danico Autry, for example, and I grabbed him at 11.5 million a year, and
Hmm.
I just went ahead and got him and maybe five or six other guys.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say in terms of maybe Nick Caserio spreads out the money a little bit more and doesn't throw it all at one guy in Christian Wilkins. Either perspective I can agree with. You're not gonna hear me say, no, hell no, I don't want to see Christian Wilkins in like that's just asinine. Let's
Yeah.
be real. But at the end of the day, the Houston Texans, they got to spend the money. They have the
Hmm.
money. Spend the money. Be wise with your decisions. I think a wise one would be Christian Wilkins. I do agree with you.
So you're predicting a free agency like last year, which is not
Similarly.
really one or two big key guys, but you bring in a veteran for every position group. So it was Dalton Schultz, it was Shaq Mason, Devin
Mm.
Singletary, Case Keenum, Ward, Perriman, and Rankins as well. Um, I had said I could see that free agency happen, and a lot of people said that, I was wrong for that and expect that the window is now for the
Yes.
Houston Texans. And that's why I completely understand if they go with someone like Christian Wilkins. It's just if you're not going to spend the money on him, man, then when are you going to spend the money?
Well, you still got to look at extending Nico Collins.
And that's the thing, right? If you're gonna use that money to continue the continuity, as you said, then I have no issues with that. It's just once we see another free agency of not getting the big name guys and just getting a veteran for every position group, and if they do good, reward them with a contract like Dalton
Mhm.
Schultz, like what we're talking about with Devin Singletary and Steven Nelson as well. Wouldn't mind if that's the strategy at all, from Nick Caserio. But now that's how I feel like he'll go for every single free agency from here on
Mhm.
out. This dude will never go out there and get the big name, get the big players.
True.
Now, that's
True.
always not a bad thing. That's always not a bad thing, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
tie in so much money to one guy and he completely flops, right? Shout out to Brock Osweiler. How big was that? How big of a flop was that? What about Aaron Colvin? How big of a flop was that? So
Good lord.
I understand it. It's just
Good
at
lord.
some points I would love to see the risk taking, right? So
Okay.
if you take a shot at like a Saquon, then there's the risk take, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
100% great job, Nick Caserio. But if we see a kind of slow place free agency this year, like we've seen the past previous, I think this is what we would need to expect coming from general manager Nick Caserio in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Let's get to the question here. Loki says, "Hey, if JG tries to demand 20 million, do you bring him back or spend similar or a little more on Danielle Hunter? If Jonathan Grenard's demanding 20 million, I don't have too much of a problem. I am gonna take a look at it. And, you got to cover all your bases with Jonathan Grenard. He was absolutely fantastic for you this previous year. But you do got to look at his injury history. You got to look at this was a contract year for him. Was it just D'Amico Ryans or was it a little bit play of a both guys,
Hmm.
because, you did see that the Houston Texans, brought in Derek Barnett and he had some great production from Jonathan Grenard's position. I'm not saying Derek Barnett can be the immediate starter for Jonathan Grenard, but do the Texans feel more comfortable in replacing that position with maybe someone not of Jonathan Grenard's level,
Hmm.
but maybe a committee kind of role there at that position, knowing that you got a Will Anderson that's only going to get better, knowing that you are going to improve in the defensive tackle department interior wise. The Texans could, again, they could spread this out, spread the money out more, and maybe,
Hmm.
got to look at filling out this roster and making it really good because we all know, and I know that's not a great thing, just really good. Make the roster really good, plain and simple. But because the Houston Texans, they got themselves a tough schedule next year. All right. They got a first place schedule. And it isn't going to be as easy as it was this year. Teams
Hmm.
now are going to go, oh, okay, I got to take them seriously. Oh, okay. CJ Stroud and company. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we play too much into that rookie factor. You know what? This kid ain't a rookie.
Hmm.
Like I could see teams that maybe, overlooked us. I get it. I understand it. It ain't going to happen this coming year, man.
No, no, no. Now people know what the hell we're about, what CJ's
Yes.
about. So, I don't want to come back and look at free agency and be like, man, we should have got
Mm-hmm.
a Christian Wilkins and stuff like that. But when it comes to Jonathan Grenard, right, and real quick shout out to Missouri, um, 20 mil was not far from his PFF projection, which was four
Yeah.
years, $72 million deal, 4.25 million guaranteed, and making 18 million during those 4 years. We both said we would do this deal. We do know that him and the Houston Texans are having conversations with
Yes.
each other about returning. So that is something good to hear. With Jonathan Grenard, me personally, it would have to make sense money wise. However, I do not want to see homegrown talent leave. 12 and a half sacks really broke out. 9.3 run stop rate, ranking eighth among qualifying edge defenders. So he's good to get into the quarterback. He's good at stopping the run. And first year with D'Amico Ryans, I would wonder what would the future hold if Grenard just continues to be in the system and grow under our head coach. We've seen the growth on this team, right? We've seen Christian Harris just become a stud. Will Anderson end up winning defensive rookie of the year. Derek Stingley just continues to grow as the season went on. However, like what Aaron Wilson said, the Texans will let Jonathan Grenard test free agency and to see what his market is. And if someone
Mhm.
overpays Jonathan Grenard, then I'm happy for you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Goodbye. I wish I could do my best. I don't know who said it. I think it was Jake Asman. He talked about bringing in someone like Bryce Huff, longtime New York Jet, not really someone who's good against the run, but can get to the QB, right?
Yeah.
2 good seasons of a pass rush win rate. A little bit cheaper than Jonathan Grenard, around the same age, maybe 2 years younger. Wouldn't
Mhm.
mind that. JD Clowney, we know he
Would
wanted to
like
come
that.
back last year.
Yes.
Um, does he want to come back again? Take a 1 year deal? I think that's what Clowney is just going to get at this point in his career, just
Yeah.
1 year deals and 9.5 sacks, dominant against the run. Would not mind seeing a finish the story with Jadavion Clowney.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either, actually. And that goes back into the, spreading the money out kind of free agency, right? That kind of goes back into that perspective. The Houston Texans, again, they saw what they got from Derek Barnett. They liked what they got from him. I would expect them to re-sign him and then
Mm,
grab somebody else. That to me is the plan, especially again, you just drafted a defensive end at number 3, traded up for him, and Will Anderson Jr. You're expecting big things coming from this guy in the future for his career. So you got yourself a defensive end and Will Anderson. Just get yourself somebody that is complimentary. Maybe a few
mm,
guys that are complimentary. JD Clowney. I'm happy for JD Clowney. I would go nuts for JD Clowney. Good run defender. He being a 4-3, plays well in a 4-3. Get his hand in the dirt. Again, this is what D'Amico Ryans would absolutely love. And JD Clowney obviously needs somebody that, as we know, and maybe he's different. I don't know if he's still the same or not, but he was always touted as a guy that needs a little extra motivation. Well, who not
mhm.
better than D'Amico Ryans?
Yep. No, I mean, after seeing what he told Christian Harris to get that pick six, that got me even more excited for year 2 with D'Amico in charge of this defense. Someone brings up Curtis Samuel. I could
Mm,
100%, seeing that happen. There's the Ohio State connection. PFF says Samuel was an efficient target in Bieniemy's offense that spread the ball around more than any team in the NFL, hauling in just shy of 73% of passes thrown his way with just 4 drops on 85 targets in 23. He was used as a ball carrier like he has been used his entire career, going all the way back to Ohio State. 27 years old. His projected contract, 2 years, $18 million, 11.5 guaranteed, $9 million during those 2 years. Would not mind that at all. I think Curtis Samuel could come in and be quite nice for the Houston Texans as a third option.
Yeah, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Curtis Samuel, and I've seen many other guys throw some names out there. Curtis Samuel, Kendrick Bourne, Juwan Jennings from the Niners. I have
Kendrick
no
Bourne. Oh
problem.
my God.
Kendrick Bourne is a wide receiver from the
Yeah,
Patriots.
no, I'm good on that.
And I've seen a few names thrown out there. Um, but Curtis Samuel, I would not mind that whatsoever. The biggest thing with Curtis Samuel, he's a willing blocker. And
Mm,
that is something that this Houston Texans team obviously values. They value guys that are going to go out there and they're going to play football. And
mm.
Curtis Samuel is just a football player. He can. You want him to run the ball? I got you, coach. You need me to do a little slant? I got you, coach. Like he just looks like a guy that is going to be, you know, calm, cool, collective, solid wide receiver, play well for you. I think that would be a solid signing. The Texans have multiple options there. Juwan Jennings, I mentioned from the 49ers. I don't know if that happens just because his pay grades might go up a bit because a lot of eyeballs saw him in the Super Bowl and he had himself a
Mm.
solid game. He made himself some bread in that Super Bowl game.
Another wide receiver I've been keeping my eye on, Harley, is Calvin Ridley from the
Mm,
Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, it looks like the Jaguars won't be franchise tagging him. We'll be letting him hit free agency. If they did
yes.
do a deal with Calvin Ridley, the third round pick that they had sent to Atlanta will now have to be a second round pick 2 years removed from football, 8,000 yards, and had to step up for the Jacksonville Jaguars with Christian Kirk being out, with Zay Jones being out. Calvin Ridley in 2020 was an elite slot wide receiver. And I think that he's still very fresh. He could come in and be a legit number 3 option for this Houston Texans team. And Lord forbid there's any injuries. I have no doubt Calvin really can step up and be the go-to guy for Jacksonville. Played outside, played inside. He's more of a slot guy, but with the injuries he had to play everywhere for them. Um, the inconsistencies, though, is what might scare a lot of people. Dropping the ball sometimes, multiple drop touchdowns. At some points, looked like a dude who did not play football in 2 years. Shout out to the 111 people in here, man. Make sure you guys are liking today's stream. I think Calvin really could come in and make this Houston Texan offense dynamic. You're talking about a legit route runner in the NFL who could take over games. You saw what him do at this year. Another year in football, another year in training camp, OTAs, and then you're giving him CJ Stroud. Would not mind that at all. Calvin Ridley will be a good get for me.
I don't mind Calvin Ridley. I like the idea. I like what he brings to this team. I completely agree with that. My only question is, how much money is he going to be asking for?
They have him here at a 3-year, $55.5 million deal, 32.75 guaranteed, 18.5 a year. I do not think he gets that. But
Yeah, so with now Mike Evans being extended by the Tampa Bay Bucks,
shout out to
Calvin
Mike
Ridley
Evans.
is now the top wide receiver on the market. And somebody is going to pay him some money. And
You think there's a
18
market for Calvin Ridley?
I definitely do. Who else? What other wide receiver is out there? Look at the wide receiver market. It's not so much Calvin Ridley. It's just more how the market plays out. And the market right now has Calvin Ridley as a number 1 wide receiver in the market. And I mean, who else is going to be out there? T. Higgins? No, he's not going to be out there. Everyone either got franchise tag, like Michael Pittman Jr. got franchise tag, so Calvin Ridley is standing on top of the wide receiver market going, I'm the number 1 guy out here. Who wants me? $18.5 million? Not doing it. Just not doing it. I'm not going to be able to pay him. I think somebody out there is going to be willing to throw some money at him. So throw him a bag. And, you made great points. You did for whatever team that's going to bring him in, because it probably won't not be the Houston Texans. I love the idea. I think bringing him here would have been smart. It takes away some of that wide receiver 1 roles from Nico Collins. Don't put a lot of pressure on him as well. You can interchange both guys. You can interchange Tank Dell in him. I love the idea. I just don't see it happening at all.
That would be all right. You would have to take at least 12 to $14 million a year to be a wide receiver 3 year.
Yeah.
It's just when you this is where I want Nick Caserio to be like, all right, dude, come on. Like, this is year 2. And who knows what type of numbers you could put up with my franchise quarterback here, CJ Stroud. You already have seen all these different stars show their interest in the Houston Texans. Right at the Pro Bowl, you had Stephon Diggs asking Andre Johnson about the organization and the city of Houston, right? You had Jamar Chase saying that, I know you want to play with me, CJ, come on. It went so viral, he had to go on Twitter and say, I'm not giving up on Joe Burrow. Need to see these pending free agents, man, take some discounts, bro. Need to see it. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen,
it's all about that money, man.
It's all about the money at the end of the day.
I ain't taking a discount.
You wouldn't?
Nah, hell no. Unless it's just got to be, it's got to be circumstantial, right? So it really depends. If for example, if I'm Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders and my contract is up, I am not taking a discount whatsoever, because what the hell is my team doing? Whereas I look at, if I'm at the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and let's say I'm Terry McLaurin on the Chiefs, hell yeah, bud. I'll I'll take a discount because I'm winning. I value
Mhm.
winning. That's just me. A lot of people don't value the winning as much as they do the money. Players, a lot of players, unfortunately, guys, comment section, they value that moolah. And I have no problem with it. Go make your bread, little baby. Go make your bread.
Go make the bread. Ladies and gentlemen, we had updated you about the first move in free agency that the Houston Texans have made. Once again, tight end Dalton Schultz has signed on a 3-year extension. He will be here for CJ Stroud's rookie contract. Go.
Is this the first move? We got something from Adam Schefter. Free agent tight end Jonu Smith visited the Miami Dolphins today. Is this the first free agent move that is not like team going to player going to same team, player going to different team? Is this the first one? Is this a sign of things to come? Is this a snowball effect?
I told you. I
Hey
told you.
man,
I told
all
you.
I need to
And
say is one thing is that Saquon Barkley to the Houston Texans notification would hit like crack.
dude, do you think okay, let's be honest, bro. Let's really be honest with ourselves.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna get Saquon. As
I
much as
don't
I
think so either.
freaking want to, bro. As much as I think he would transform this Houston
Yeah.
Texans offense. I mean, you were talking about it all the way back at the trade deadline, and I just don't think he's gonna, he's gonna take that discount that we are talking about, right? I think he said that he would return to the New York Giants if the price was right.
Yeah.
I think the story is fun, right? It's always fun when these stars want to come and play for you, and especially when you hear him talking to players like CJ Stroud about how much he wants to return to Houston. Texans are 100% getting him, bro. I hope so.
I hope so.
I I dude, I do. I don't know what else like the Texans could do to give a sign because they haven't told us anything. From what we've seen from the Texans, all they've wanted so far is Dalton Schultz. Right? We've heard
Yeah.
about all these free agents wanting to come here. We haven't heard about how the Houston Texans have felt about them. DeAndre Swift, would you mind that? I mean, he's the youngest of the running backs we're talking about. I think 25,
Yes.
26,
He's
coming off
25.
of a Pro Bowl season with
Yeah.
the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, but you're running behind one of the best offensive lines in football, period. But wouldn't mind that. A lot of people are comparing him to the Miles Sanders deal that the Panthers did last year, right? Giving him
Mhm.
multiple years, giving him a lot of money, and not being the starting running back 4 weeks in. Um, you would have to sell me on DeAndre Swift. Not saying I would not
Yeah.
be excited about
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift. I know it's there. I know he's fresh, was not used a lot with the Detroit Lions and first year Pro Bowler with Philly. Let's see what you got. If Aaron Jones gets cut, I would be excited if he made his way to the Texans because I know that would be cheap. I know
Yes.
that would be cheap, right? Bradley, I'm not Bradley.
Nick Chubb.
Chubb. If Chubb gets released, that would be something interesting as well. Would not mind seeing a Chubb and Devin Singletary backfield.
Mm.
So much could
Interesting.
happen. What you mean by that?
Chubb and Singletary. Huh?
Chubb and Singletary, man. That might be your backfield, right? Cheap as hell, bro. How much
It's
you gonna
not.
spend in
It's
total?
not bad. It's not bad. I don't mind it. Definitely got to look at Nick Chubb's injury history. Take a look at make sure everything's good to go with him. In terms of if the Texans were at all interested, if he even gets cut. Nick Chubb could get cut, by the way, comment section because of the Deshaun Watson contract. So take that in your hat and save it for later. So,
So
but go ahead.
this was really his first year being injured.
Okay.
17 games played last year, 14 and 21, 12 and 20, 16 and 19. Um,
Okay. Okay. His workload is heavy too.
yes, he
Yeah.
has 300 carries in 22, 228 in 21, 190 in 20, 290 in 20. I mean, he was a four-time Pro Bowler up until this season that he got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have a problem with either of them two guys. Aaron Jones or Nick Chubb, if either one of them gets cut, I think are cheaper options, and they help you fill in the 1 to 2 year, scenario of getting a solid running back along with CJ Stroud before you have to pay CJ Stroud. And both guys, again, even Saquon Barkley, none of these running backs you grab should shy you away from still drafting a running back in the draft. Like,
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. If there's someone there you like in the fourth round, take it. Give me more weapons. Make CJ Stroud's life as easy as possible. That's what I would like to see.
What do you think about AJ Dillon?
Not a fan.
We were hyped when he came out of Boston College. Remember that?
Yeah, I think he had maybe a good little 4 or 5 years that he should have in the NFL, and I think that's about over with now,
Yeah, I mean,
because
maybe.
his workload at Boston College was crazy, crazy workload, and I was just like, man, as big as this dude is, the workload he's already had. He's going to the Green Bay Packers. I know they didn't use him a lot, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of him. Not very fast either. I don't even know if he can play in his own run scheme. Not sure. So
Alvin
yeah,
Kamara.
hell yeah. If Alvin Kamara got cut, hell yeah. Now that's one where I'm like, yeah, all right, all right. You give me Alvin Kamara, and this Texans offense similar to Saquon Barkley, similar to Christian McCaffrey, that kind of skill set with CJ Stroud.
Mm.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. We go that. That's cooking. That's cooking here in H Town.
Dude, have you seen Christian McCaffrey's brother?
I have Luke McCaffrey from
Bro,
Rice. I had the pleasure of seeing some of his games. We'll see. The combine, he performed well. I think he's an athlete. I don't
just
know if he's going to
snagging
be a
them
good
bitches,
player.
bro. Just one handing them, dude.
Yeah, he's an athlete, and that's for sure. I thought he would perform well at the combine. I question if he can perform well in game.
Oh no, I'm not saying I want him here, but I was just
Yeah,
when I see them one-handed snags, I was like, oh
yeah.
wow, bro, you're
Okay.
you're holding up the last name well.
Hey man,
Uh,
gotta represent.
Brandon says Motor and Saquon are really the only HB1 options people will accept. No, 100%. And right? You kind of feel that way because it's Saquon really doing all the work. It's really him showing his interest in the team. And we've been
Yeah.
hearing about him wanting to join for what seems like almost a month now. Every single week, we are hearing that Saquon Barkley is the preferred destination. Saquon Barkley is the favorite to land in Houston. Oh, he's talking to CJ Stroud about his desire to want to come here. Oh, he just followed 30 Houston Texans players on Instagram. So it's not really the Texans doing this stuff. It's more Saquon of, flirting with us and trying to let us know, hey man, just think about the possibilities. I do like though, like I said earlier, it's that we're not hearing the same side from Houston, right? We're not hearing that they're interested in anyone. The only player we've been interested in was Devin Singletary, and that's because D'Amico Ryan said, I would love to see him come back, right? When it was about Dalton Schultz, it was Will C. When it was John Gennard, it was Will C. And we have not heard anything about them wanting any of these guys who want them back.
Yeah, agreed. And the only thing I will say there is they did bring back Dalton Schultz.
Well, for
Um,
sure.
but CJ Stroud had to have put in some sort of something to bring back Dalton Schultz there.
How you feel
So
about that?
no problem. No
I love it.
problem. No problem, Cap. You got it. You
Mm,
got it, CJ. Like this his team. All right. So this is his D'Amico. This is y'all's team. And look, man, we're just here for the ride.
mm. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for being a part of today's live stream. We will be returning soon with the latest Houston Texans news, rumors, and updates. Harley, let them know where they can find your latest work, brother.
Y'all can find me on YouTube at the lead underscore Houston. You can just type that into any social media platform and I will immediately pop up. I'm trying to do my best to more promote myself more on Instagram, TikTok. So those are the two social platforms I don't use quite often. I will be using them a lot more. Hopefully the content is acceptable for your
Mm,
needs. Whether you like, dislike, make sure you do subscribe. We're on the road to 8,000 subscribers. We're almost at 6,000,
mm.
only good 700 subscribers away from it. So, again, appreciate every single one of y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure if you missed the podcast, you can listen to the audio version on Spotify or anywhere where you stream all your podcast platforms. Believe in Texans. It's exactly how it's spelled up there, part of the Believe Network. So make sure to
Mhm.
check us out. And whenever y'all get time, hey, during work, in the morning drive, don't matter. Find it, listen, enjoy.
Yes, sir. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much. You can find me on YouTube. Just type in 713 Houston Sportcast in the search bar. As always, go Houston Texans. You guys have a very